Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Rights for Women. Jodi Gibson is my guest today on the Rights for Women Convo Couch, and Jodi is returning to have a chat, this time about her second novel. I believe when I spoke to Jodi the first time around, it was when she was preparing to release her first novel, The Memories We Hide, which was independently published. She's an author of contemporary women's fiction, or as she likes to call it, fiction with feels. Her debut novel was The Memories We Hide, and it was independently published in August 2019. Her next novel, The 5-Year Plan, is a lighter, more romantic women's fiction title and combines travel, food, and romance, and was just released this week. Jodi is a graduate of Fiona Macintosh's masterclass from 2017 and has worked as a freelancer and copy editor. She's an avid baker, a skill and passion evident in her latest book, and an active member of the Australian writing community. I've asked Jodi to come back and join me today on the Convo Couch because she's taken a different direction, not only in the style of writing that she's now doing, but also in the way that it's being published. And Jodi's also very savvy about the business of marketing and just about the publishing industry in general. So I just wanted to pick her brain on some of those things, as well as talk to her about her fabulous new release. So Jodi, welcome back to the Rights for Women Convo Couch.
Thanks for having me, Pam. It's great to be back.
Yeah, I was trying to think, I think it was just before The Memories We Hide was released that we last spoke.
Yeah, I think so. So that's 2 years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot's happened since then.
The world has changed since then, hasn't it?
It definitely has. Yeah.
Definitely.
And for you, you've slightly changed direction, which I really want to talk about with your writing and with your publishing. But just for those people who may not have listened to that first episode, may not know anything about your background in terms of writing, can you talk us through how you ended up being a fiction author?
Sure. It certainly wasn't something that was planned. I certainly didn't leave school or even at school think of, writing books as a career path. It wasn't really something that normal people, I guess, did. Authors were seen as these, people who are way above everybody else. And you didn't know any authors around that time. So it wasn't until my mid-30s or early to mid-30s that I came around to enjoying reading again first, and then toying with some ideas that I would like to write a book. And I think for many women, particularly mothers, it happens around the time that you have a child and you find that you're home a lot and you might have a little bit of spare time, and so your creative brain starts to take over. And so that's what happened for me. I had an idea and I was playing around with it, and I wrote it down and got it out of my head, which was nice to get it out of my head because it was sort of waking me up in the night. So, and that first, I won't even call it a manuscript or a novel. It was sort of all over the place. Definitely not going to see the light of day, as I think most people's first efforts won't. But it absolutely set my creative brain on fire and got me thinking that this is something that I could possibly do and that I would like to do. And so I just kept writing from there. And at first it was pretty much just a hobby. It wasn't something that I thought, oh yes, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be an author, I'm going to seek a publication deal and see what happens. It was just over the space of time where I'd written a few different manuscripts, I'd done some courses, I'd learnt a lot about the craft of writing as you do along the way. And it probably wasn't until maybe 2015, 2016 where I thought I'd written something that maybe would be worth publishing. And so that sort of set me off on the path of working towards, seeing if it was worthy of publication.
And so was that The Memories We Hide, that manuscript, or was that another one?
That was The Memories We Hide, yes. So I wrote it during NaNoWriMo, and it just worked really well from the first incarnation of that book. Not that represents anything very similar to what the final draft was, but it was the story that was working well and the characters that were working well. And I actually took it to Fiona Macintosh's masterclass in 2017 and had great feedback from her that, yes, if you keep working on it, it definitely could be worth putting forward for publication. And it ended up being my first novel, which was exciting.
Yeah, I remember around that time. It's always very exciting. I mean, any book that you have out's exciting, but that first one is just super special, isn't it?
Very special indeed,
Yeah.
yes.
And that one was independently published. So you decided to publish that yourself. Can you talk a little bit about the reasons for that?
I did. I did pitch to a couple of different publishers with that and got great feedback, had full manuscripts requested and read throughs. It just didn't end up being for those publishers, which was fine. And I think more than anything, I started to look at different ways that I could get it published because I really believed in the story and I believed that um, I was confident enough in the story to want to put it out there. And so I did a lot of research into independent publishing or self-publishing. I didn't know anything really about it. I didn't know much about traditional publishing either, so I was learning on both fronts. So I did a lot of research, and when it came down to it, I realised that it was something that I'd like to jump in the deep end with. And so it was definitely a huge learning curve, learning what to do and how to do it. But I also enjoyed that process. I'm a bit of a control freak, and I think you need to be to put something out there yourself because you're not just writing the book, you're actually wearing all the hats that a traditional publisher would wear. So you're organising the editing and the proofreading and the cover design and then the distribution and then the promotion and marketing. So you're wearing all of those hats. So it's not for someone who isn't, I guess, business minded and isn't one who wants to do all that, because you really have to want to do that to take that jump into self-publishing. So yeah, I just did it. I didn't really think much about it. I just thought I want to get this book out there. I know it's a good story. It could probably be better, but you know what book couldn't be better?
Exactly.
When you finish a book,
Exactly.
you think it's done, and then you always think back and go, well, I could have done this a bit better. I could have changed this scene. I could have, there's always could have. So I just took the plunge and I put it out there, and it went really well for an indie novel, and I had some great feedback, some amazing reviews on it, and so that was the start of my publishing journey.
Oh, that's so good. And like you say, a massive, massive learning curve. And I think,
Massive.
because I've been through the same thing as you know, and I don't think anything that you learn doing that is ever wasted, is it? If you go back into trad or if you
Not at
stay
all.
indie, it's all just so important.
Absolutely. I learnt so much, and even I'm only just remembering now the stuff that I learnt from that first experience, putting my second novel out there, because sometimes the first one is a little bit of a blur too, because it's the build up and then it's just the rush of getting it out there, and so it all ends up in a bit of a blur. And I was reading through my notes recently about what I had been doing. I'm like, oh, that's right, I remember doing that now. But there's always things to learn, and of course the market and the publishing landscape changes as well, so you've got to keep up with those changes. But definitely a huge learning curve, and I don't think you ever stop learning in publishing because things change.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. And the 5-year plan is a different style of women's fiction, isn't it, to the Memories We Hide? So it's a lighter story. It's more romancy. It's got a little bit of a rom-com element in places. You've got the travel and food woven into it. Can you tell us, was that a deliberate change in direction for you, or was it just the story that wanted to be written and so here it is? How did that work for you?
I think it was more of a deliberate change. The Memories We Hide had been with me for a long time, that story, and that was the style of story that it came out. It was more dramatic. It was set had a rural setting. It had a slight romance thread through it, and it was that voice for that story. But I don't know if that was my natural voice. So in subsequent manuscripts, when I was writing, this lighter style of voice was coming through a lot. So I had to make that effort to have a look at that and to change slightly in that direction, because that's just how it kept coming out as I was writing it. So it was sort of not deliberate but not conscious at the same time. It just ended up that way, and I enjoy writing it. I
Yeah.
really enjoy, and I enjoy reading it too. Feel good fiction makes you feel good. It takes you away, gives you a bit of escapism from everyday life, which particularly we need right now.
We certainly
So
do.
yeah, so it was a good choice, and I feel that's where at the moment that my voice is sitting.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, can you tell us about the 5-year plan and what the story's about?
Sure. So the 5-year plan revolves around the main character, Demi. Now, Demi is of Italian heritage and she's in Melbourne. She's in her early 30s and she's got a plan for life. She's got a 5-year plan. And it basically revolves around taking over the family cafe. And she's just moved in with her boyfriend, who could possibly be the one. So her dad is talking retirement. So she's really in a position where she thinks everything's about to fall into place. But in a good story, we know that nothing ever falls into place, and that's exactly what happens to Debbie. And she finds herself with her plan fallen apart. Her father has decided he's not going to hand the cafe down to her. Something's happened with her boyfriend, and they're not together anymore. So she takes a plunge and decides to head over to Italy and sort of rediscover her Italian heritage. Her uncle is over there, and that's where her parents are from, a place called Bari in Italy. And she heads over there to run the cafe that's over there with her uncle, learn all about her heritage and the culture, and hopefully come back and prove to her dad that, she is the rightful one to take over the cafe. But when she's over there, there's a lot of things that are unraveled from her past and from her family's past. She also meets someone special called Leo, and so things develop there. And she basically takes a journey to learn about what she really wants out of life and to maybe not be so focused on a plan as such and be open to opportunities.
Yeah, no, that's a really good summary of it, Jodi. I'm reading it. I'm just past halfway through, actually. And like you say, it's been a great lockdown read because it has got that light element to it. And it's also got this vicarious travel experience, which is wonderful because, we're all champing at the bit to actually get out of our houses and, be able to travel vicariously to Italy is amazing. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know. I think we all want to just go anywhere at the moment, don't we?
We do.
So if we can go
we
to
do.
Italy through a book, why not?
Yeah. And, you've got your tagline there on the banner behind you and on the book, what do you do when everything doesn't go to plan? And just sort of listening to you talk about the plot line, and you've got such great elements in there in terms of, she has this sort of an early midlife crisis almost when things do fall apart for her. And then, it's in this new setting in this new place that she really is becoming a different person. And so there's lots of those fantastic elements of women's fiction in there that are, is about her growth as a character and as a person. So can you just give us a little bit more of an idea of who Demi is? And I'm particularly interested in her Greek, it's her Italian background. Not
yes.
Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, her Italian heritage, and also if you have any of that Italian heritage yourself, because it's very authentic in the book and very believable in terms of the whole family dynamic that you develop. So tell us a little bit about Demi and her family.
Sure. So first of all, I don't have an Italian heritage. I wish I did because I grew up with a lot of Italians. Where I grew up, there's a big Italian community, and I went to school with a lot of Italians. Was friends with a lot of Italians. I'm still friends with a lot of Italians. So their culture and their history and their food in particular has really rubbed off on me. So it's a pure passion. It's a love for the culture that I wanted to bring through, not necessarily knowing that myself.
Yeah.
And so Demi has grown up in the family cafe with her brothers and sisters. They've decided they're not interested in the cafe, but it's something that Demi's always loved. She's loved the people aspect of it. She's loved the food aspect. She's loved being a part of something and seeing that passion that her parents had for the cafe. And she decided at a very young age that this is what she wanted to do. So she's been very loyal to her father working in the cafe and very focused on this plan. She's very much a bit like me, I guess, a bit of a control freak. So she knows what she wants and she knows what direction she wants to take. But it's really a challenging thing for her when things don't fall into place because she didn't have a plan B as such. This was the plan. So it takes a lot for her to step out of that comfort zone and to travel to the other side of the world and develop a new plan and then be open to the opportunities rather than being quite focused and having blinkers on, which I think a lot of people can relate to. We like to think we can plan our lives, but really does, fate come into it anywhere? And I think as you grow and mature as a person, and as you experience different things, which is what Demi finds, you start to realize that maybe, when you really look deep inside yourself, what you thought you wanted isn't actually what you need.
Yeah. And that's all great stuff for fiction, isn't it, too? Because often our characters are not really aware of what they do need. And I guess it's our job as the author to show them the way, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I liked about Demi's character arc in the story was that she starts off, as I said, very focused, and then takes a step back and she starts to think, okay, so maybe that wasn't what was meant to be. And then she thinks, okay, what if I can make it happen? And then she heads over to Italy, and then things don't go exactly as she's planned, and she falls back into that self-doubt that, oh, well, maybe this is just my life and that's the way it's meant to be. So she has to find that inner strength again to open herself up and really look at things differently. So, and I think, well, I hope a lot of people can relate to that, because we're not all strong characters that can just go out there and grab everything we see. We do fall back into ourselves at times. We do have expectations that perhaps your family or other people in our lives put on you, that you think that, that's important, or you have that sort of imbalance and that struggle that, is what I want more important, or is what someone else wants and needs more important? So she really struggles with that at one point in the novel. So I really wanted to have her explore that and see how she came out of that at the other end.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's definitely something we can all relate to in one way or the other. And what about who are some of the other major players in the book? Can you introduce us to some of them?
Sure. So first of all, one of the first characters you meet is Demi's dad, Giulio. He is very typical Italian, very boisterous, very loud, but very set in his ways, quite traditional in his thinking in some ways, but also a very lovable character. And Demi absolutely admires her father. He's a figure in her life that she's always looked up to. So when things start to fall apart, she starts to question that relationship and how she feels about that. Then we have Anna. Anna is Demi's best friend. And I'm just going to clear my throat, Pam.
Yeah, go.
Can we edit that?
Like I said, absolutely. That's the beauty of this editing program. I can just get rid of the words in the transcript and it all goes away.
Hey, so I was up to, I'll start talking about Anna again.
Yeah.
Then there's Anna, which is Demi's best friend. And they actually got together a few years ago to make the 5-year plan together for both of themselves, for Anna herself and for Demi. And Anna is a really fun character. She's definitely quite opposite to Demi. She doesn't really stick to the plan. It's just more of a loose plan for her, but she's good at jumping off the deep end and really shows that difference between her and Demi. So I think she adds a lot to the story, and she's always there for Demi to lean on, which we all need a friend like that.
Yeah.
And then when she heads off to Italy, she meets a character called Leo, and Leo is one of my favorite characters in the book. He came to me so easily, and Demi is immediately attracted to Leo, and their relationship develops from there. But there's a lot of conflict there, and there's a lot of things that stand in their way, not to mention that he lives in Italy and that she lives in Australia. And so I can't say too much without giving...
No, we don't want spoilers.
Giving it away, no spoilers. But he's definitely a character that has a lot to do with Demi in the second part of the book, and helps her learn a lot about herself.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely one of those catalysts for her, isn't he? And another is the beautiful place in which she finds herself. So I have to ask you about Bari. Have you been there?
I have, yes.
Oh, I knew it. I could tell from the writing. It's just your passion for the place comes through so strongly in the writing, and you do such a fabulous job of really, as I said, taking us there, So, yeah, tell us about Bari.
Thank you. Yeah, so when I realised that Demi needed to get out of Melbourne, I knew she had to go to Italy, but I didn't want her to go somewhere like Rome or Venice that we all know about and have been used a lot in fiction and movies. I wanted to go somewhere totally different. So I basically just ran my finger around the map and thought, I'll have a look at this place called Bari. So I checked it out. And we're actually planning a European holiday back in 2018. And we were going to Italy, so I sort of tacked that on to the end of the trip, just 3 days in Bari, and we went there. And I went there coming into Bari, looking at the way that Demi would. So I was experiencing it like how I wanted her to experience it on her first time, as she flew over and drove into the old town and experienced it. So I was busily taking notes, and as soon as I got there,
I'm picturing you with the note, don't talk to me, I'm writing notes.
I was snapping photos and then jotting things into my iPhone and just listening to the sounds and all the smells, and it's very much that immersive sort of research that I was probably very vacant with my family for those 3 days. They're just like, oh yeah, mum's just busy writing things down, taking photos. But it was absolutely amazing. When I got there, I knew this was exactly the perfect place for Demi, and it's an absolutely beautiful town. It's one of my favorite places that I've visited. So when we ever get past this pandemic, if you get a chance to travel again, definitely put it on your list. If you're heading to Italy, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, well, I've been to Italy and I love it, but I haven't been to Bari, so it's now definitely been added to my list for sure.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And another important element of the story, and something that's very important to Demi and to Leo and to both families actually, is the food. So I'm guessing that you're a foodie, Jodi. I know that you do love to cook. So was that also sort of a deliberate thing to weave those elements of food into the writing? Because it does make for a very sort of sensory experience, in terms of taking you to that place too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Demi has this love of food and this passion for her culture and the food of her culture. So it absolutely had to play a big part. And I was quite okay with sampling the Italian cuisine and writing that into the book. There was no problems there. And it was fun too. I did lots of tasting when I was in Bari. I saw the nonnas making the pasta out on the street, them cutting up potatoes out on the street. So all of that just went into the book, and I practiced a few recipes at home and trialed them on myself and my family, which I don't think anyone complained about. Yeah. But I do absolutely have full respect for Italians and their food, because a lot of it is quite tricky to make, particularly the pasta. You've got to have the right know-how, and I think they have that special knack. So I'm by no means the best Italian cook at all, but Demi definitely needed to have that passion shown. So bringing that food element into the book was absolutely essential for the story.
Yeah, there's that great scene you were talking about, the nonnas, and there's that scene where a group of them get together and they're making this pasta, and it's outdoors and they've got the table there, and it's such a community event. It's this real coming together of people around food, and I think that's such a big part of Italian and Mediterranean and a lot of European culture, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, I think everyone's culture, when you think about it, we all get together over food. We all celebrate over food. And particularly in those European cultures, they do come together. They're hardworking communities who are out working during the day. They have hot summers, so they come home later and they all get together. And in Bari, they would just all of the people, the locals at nighttime would just come out of their houses. Obviously, we went there in the summer months, so in the good weather, and they would all just come out and they would eat and they would associate with everyone. It was a real sense of community, and I absolutely love that. I think that's something that we perhaps could do better here in Australia, that real sense of community and that real gathering over food and having that to connect over. So that was, I really wanted to bring that into the book as well.
Yeah, well, you do it beautifully. It really drew me in. So
good.
What was your process in writing this book, Jodi, was it written over a long period of time, or was it something that you did, over nano, or how did that all evolve for you? And then in terms of getting it to the revision and publication stage?
It was a really long process, this book. It started off a few years ago. I can't even remember. I have so many things going on at the one time. I can't remember which one started when. It was maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And it was quite a different book to begin with. It had 3 point of view characters. They were all friends. There was Demi, Anna, and another friend, Beck, and they all had their own stories to tell. But halfway through, or about 3/4 of the way through the first draft, Demi was absolutely screaming the loudest at me, and she just kept coming into every scene. And by the end of that first draft, I thought, this isn't working. This is Demi's story that I need to be telling. Sorry, Anna, you'll be able to have a small part in it. Sorry, Beck, you might be ending up in a different story.
Yeah, Beck's gone.
Beck's gone. Sorry about that. So yeah, it was the case of just having to listen to the characters and the story, which I know sounds a bit woo-woo, particularly for people who aren't writers and don't understand that process, but it does happen. And sometimes you just have to take the story where the story goes. And so that's what I did. So the second draft was all about Demi. And then I thought maybe there was going to be 2 books, the first book and then a second book. So I was torn between that, and my editor, Nicola O'Shea, helped me draw it back into 1 book because it wasn't quite enough for 2. It was too much to tackle for 2 books. It was better to condense it all into 1 and make it a stronger story. So she really helped me pull it together. And from there, once we pulled it into that 1 book and Demi was the feature character, it was quite an easy process drafting through until I think I'd done about 4 or 5 drafts. And on what would be the second last draft, I came to realize that it's not actually quite working. There was a point sort of 3/4 through the story where I just knew something wasn't right. And you need other people to look at it. You need someone else's eyes sometimes to look at it from an outsider's point of view and tell you what's not working. So Kelly, my writing coach, helped me through that. And as soon as she said, I think this needs to happen, or why is this happening, it sort of went bang. It was like a light bulb. Oh, of course, this big change
Right.
needs to happen to make it a stronger story. So once that was out of the way, the final draft was actually quite easy, came together really quite well. And from there, it just went forward really quickly. I was planning to publish it independently, and I ended up hybrid with it. So Brio Books have published the print version, and I've still got the rights for the ebook version. So it all came together quite quickly in the end.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a really interesting evolution of that whole story, isn't it? From the very beginning, like you say, with the 3 different characters, and now, and also the evolution of your publication journey. So I'm really interested in this whole model with you. You, as you say, have retained the ebook rights, the print rights. Is that right? Are with Brio?
Yes, that's right.
Is that in partnership with Booktopia as well, or?
Yes, exactly. So Booktopia Publishing Services have joined with Brio Books, and the way my involvement came about was through a workshop with the ASA last year, an online workshop about self-publishing, as I was fully planning to go down that route again. And John McDonald was part of that, and I emailed him after the workshop because I had a few questions about distribution and things like that. And he said, "Oh, give me a look at your manuscript. I might like to take a look at it." And then he got back to me and he said, I think I've got something in the works for you. I think I can introduce you to someone at Booktopia Publishing who might be interested in this. And I was sort of a bit taken aback, going, wow, okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Thinking that not much might come of it. And then things sort of went quiet for a couple of months, and I just kept plodding along, moving towards publication, getting covers designed, getting the editing, copy editing and proofreading and all of that done because I was planning on publishing it. And then earlier this year, I spoke to Francois McCarty at Booktopia and was offered a deal with Brio Books and Booktopia Publishing for the print rights. They said they wanted to publish it. So
Brilliant.
I was like, okay. So it's very exciting.
So, yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? So what do you see are the benefits for you in that, Jodi, I guess, in terms of having, splitting it so you're sort of in control of the ebook and they're in control of the print? What's the benefits for you rather than doing the whole lot independently?
Sure. So it's quite different to a traditional deal where you're handing over all your rights to the publisher and they are pretty much taking care of everything for you. They will help you with the editing and the proofreading and the cover design, the distribution and the marketing and all of that. The arrangement we have is that, as you said, I'm retaining the ebook rights and they have the print rights. The main benefit for me is that I still retain the ebook rights, so I still have that control. And with the print, distribution is probably the key. They have a larger distribution network than I would as an indie author for print books. And so the printing and distribution is the main benefit. That partnership is why I said yes to the deal. Of course, they have more contacts, they have better marketing reach, better promotion reach, and all that sort of thing as well. So it was really a win-win situation for both of us, really, I think.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. And as you say, I mean, it's a way of getting your book in front of more people, isn't it? Because you're teaming up with someone else who's also going to be marketing it and promoting it the way that you are at your end. So I guess it's doubling, or probably more than doubling your reach.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a huge factor in it. And they've been absolutely fabulous to deal with. We've had a few hiccups with COVID along the way with a delay to printing and that sort of thing, which I think every publisher is having problems at the moment. But that aside, they've been fantastic to deal with. I took the cover that I'd already had designed to them and said, do you like this, or would you like to do something yourself? They loved the cover. We just made a few tweaks here and there. So they took that on board. They took hold of the final proofread and the formatting and basically took it over from the proofread through to the printing and distribution. So, which was nice. It gave me a little bit more time to work on promotion and keep working on the next book I'm working on. So it was nice to be able to step back at a point rather than if I was fully indie publishing, there's a lot more business side stuff that I would have had to do as well. So it's been fantastic. It's been a great thing.
Sorry, I'm having the cough now.
Edit that out.
Yeah, got that. Yeah, look, it's really the best of both worlds. So really interested to see how that goes for you, and all the best with it.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings me, I guess, to this whole idea of branding and promotion and that whole business side of publishing, which, you have learnt so much about through your indie experience and are taking with you now with this new venture. You've got a fabulous new website that's very much based on the look of your book and the feel of your book. And I just wanted you to tell us, if you could, how conscious were you in creating sort of an author brand for yourself, particularly with this new direction, and how do you envisage that playing out with future books?
Yeah, thank you. I'm chuffed with the new website. Michelle from Fresh Web Design has done that for me.
Shout out to Michelle Barraclough.
Yes, she's done an amazing job. And I think that branding is something that I really think is an important part of being an author and having your brand out there, having your name out there, and having everything consistent to tie together. So your website and your social media platforms. And I wanted to, with the new book coming out, I wanted to use the colors and change the branding on my website to fit with that. I guess it's one of I don't have a huge marketing background, but I've done a lot of social media work and things like that in the past. So knowing that, the more time someone sees your brand or your platform, the more times they will remember it. So it's part of that. So putting it out there, and I think that's the world we live in now. Everything is done online, even though in-person events are really important for authors to connect on a one-to-one basis with readers. When we can't do that, which we've seen in the past 18 months or so, it's ever so more important to have that online brand and just have everything pulling together. And it's something that I enjoy too. I think you either do love it or you don't. So I'm really fortunate that it's something that I enjoy doing, and I enjoy pulling all of those features together and having that consistent brand and working hard on it.
Yeah, no, you do a fabulous job of it, Jodi. So what would you say are the key elements in your author brand?
I guess the key elements are books, writing, and I also enjoy baking. So I've made that part of my brand as well. So my website is sort of books and baking. So I have my own books and I like to talk about books. I like to promote other authors' books because as an author, you're also a reader. That's where it all starts. So the books and the baking is really my main point of branding that I'm focusing on, and stepping away from the writing and into maybe cooking up a batch of cookies or baking up a cake and sharing that. It's something different, and it lets me step away into something other than writing. So I really wanted to combine those two elements and really make that part of my branding, and it adds a bit of fun as a reader. I guess it lets people look into what I am as a person and who I am and what I enjoy doing, which I think it's all about that social connection and seeing someone as a person rather than just a brand. So I think it all works together, and they're two things I love. So why not bring them together and show people that this is who I am and that's what I love doing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I really like that. And as you say, I think readers like to get that insight into your life. I mean, you don't have to throw the door wide open and show them everything about your life, but
Exactly.
if you're showing them little glimpses, I think it's quite nice, isn't it? Personalizes everything.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And of course, you made great use of this whole idea of around food and branding and the travel thing with the promotional package that you sent out for the book. So I should have brought them with me actually, but I received this beautiful book and I did put some photos on Instagram, and you had along with it a little bag of coffee beans, which smelt fabulous when the box was opened, and some handmade biscotti and a postcard from Bari written from Demi, which was a lovely touch, and the beautiful colours of the Italian flag wrapped around the book in some satin ribbons. So can you talk about how you came up with that idea, and I guess that was a lot of fun actually putting that all together as well.
It was so much fun. I was brainstorming what I could do because I really wanted to, when I was sending the book out to reviewers and people like yourself, podcasters, I really wanted to set the scene of what the book's about. And I thought, well, it's obviously got to have some food in it and it's got to have some coffee in it because it's about Demi who loves running the cafe. So, and of course, it had to have an Italian theme. So I brainstormed and put together those things. And I put the coffee beans in there because I knew that they would smell amazing when you opened it and really draw you in and set that scene, and the biscotti in there as well. And I wanted to have a little touch of Demi. So you when you opened it and read that postcard, you sort of felt that you were getting to know Demi already without even opening the pages of the book. So it was just about setting that scene and introducing you to the book and to Demi and to what lies beneath the pages, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that she was writing to Anna too. You got that sense of their friendship, and actually just talking to you about it reminds me of, when I spoke to Tabitha Bird about the fabulous package she sent out with the Emporium of the Imagination.
Yes, yeah.
And she was saying that when she actually went collecting, the bits and pieces to put in those packages, because a lot of them were quite individualized, she would find these little antique things in secondhand shops and things, and then she'd think, oh, I'm going to put that. So she actually went back and then put those things into the book, as part of the Emporium. So it can work both ways, can't it? When you are building up something like that, you can think it can then spark your imagination for some of your writing.
Absolutely. It just adds something to the story, and to not even just the story, but the whole story of what you're selling as the book as well. And I guess it shows the passion that authors have for their books. Yeah. It's more than just pieces of paper. There's a lot behind what goes into a book.
Definitely. So what would you say, Jodi, if there's any authors out there listening and thinking, oh yeah, I really need to work on my author brand, what would you say would be the four of the key features of things that they can maybe start to do more of or to work on?
I think the main thing would be to get your online presence up and running. And that doesn't mean that you need to be over every single social media platform there is and have a fantastic website. It just it means that you need to pick at least one platform that you enjoy. So if you enjoy the visual aspect of Instagram, use Instagram to connect with your readers. Or if you enjoy the Facebook platform or the Twitter, just find what you enjoy using and just start posting about what you're doing and what you're writing, and pick an element of your personal life. As you said before, you don't need to throw the doors open and show them that everything that's going on and who your family is, who your kids are. Just pick one element that you want to share with readers so they get to know a sense of who you are and connect. It's about that connection. And yeah, just be consistent with it. So if you are going to have a couple of platforms and a website, keep your branding consistent, the photo, your profile picture, keep that consistent across the platform so that people will recognize that. Even if they can't remember your name to begin with, they might remember your profile picture. It's just about that consistency and that consistent posting as well. If you're only going to post once a week about random things, you're probably going to take a little bit longer to build up following. So consistent posting every day if you can, and just show who you are and what you're about and what you're writing. Even if you haven't got anything published, there's so many people out there who are aspiring authors who are writing in the background, wondering, am I doing it right, or am I even writing anything that's worthy? There's so many people out there that you can connect with who are on the same journey as you. So yeah, I think don't hold back.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
And of course, you can connect with so many like-minded people, can't you, through social media, by and I think sometimes just a really good, honest post is really, everything seems to be, and a lot of, the posts that I do too, very quite curated and to fit in with your grid and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes I find just every now and then just throwing in this is just a what's and all post, and often they're just the ones that
Absolutely.
make the biggest connection.
Yeah, it shows that you're human and that you have bad days, and not everything can be set up, with a flat lay with some flowers and a teacup and thinking everything's nice and peaceful when it's, in the background, everything's crazy. So yeah, absolutely. Keeping it real and having those posts where, oh, I'm really struggling today, I can't get these words down, or the kids are annoying me. How's your day? I think that balance because that's what life's about. It's the good with the bad, the hard days come along, and celebrate the little wins as they do as well.
Yeah, I burnt the cake, that sort of post.
Yeah,
I remember I did scones once. I borrowed Maya Linnell's scone recipe, and Maya always has these beautiful scones on there, and mine came out about half a centimetre high. I don't know what I did. I just thought, oh, bugger it, that's going on Instagram.
Absolutely. Yep. Share it all, warts and all, isn't that right?
So thinking about this idea, Jodi, of branding, I guess, and, the fact that you sound like you've pretty much nailed now the type of story that you like to write, your voice, the things that make up, your specific type of women's fiction. How are you then taking that forward into the next book, and then thinking, maybe into the future with other books that you might write?
So at the moment, I'm really comfortable in the feel-good fiction space. I don't think every book that I'm going to write is going to have a food element to it. I think there'll always be a touch of that in The Memories We Hide. Stella's brownies in there, they were an important part of the book, but that was only a very small element. Obviously, there's more in the 5-year plan. With the next book, there's a few little mentions of food-related things. So I think there'll always be that thread, but it may not be a main concept as it is with the 5-year plan. But definitely in that feel-good space, stories that explore the journey, and we all hate that word, but sometimes there's not a better word for it.
Yeah, it's not, you're right. It's not that bad, really, when it...
Yeah. And I think that's what novels are all about, isn't it? That journey of a character. And I really enjoy working with characters who are on that journey from where a point in their life where they're thrown off kilter, where they think everything's on track and they really have to step back and look at life differently. I think that's the main theme of both my books already, even though they are slightly different genres. That's definitely a main theme in my next book. So it's definitely where I'm heading. And in my next book, what I hope to be my next book, there's actually 3 characters who are faced with some things in their life that have thrown their life off course, and they have to deal with it and find a way around it. So, and I think going forward, I still want to have that lightness to the book. I think we can all get stuck into books that are a little bit heavy. I really like that balance of heaviness in a book with a bit of light relief as well, so that we're not all, life's a roller coaster. There's ups and downs, and I think the writing that I want to do, I want to explore that, where there's a bit of lightness, a bit of humour, along with the challenges as well.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds good. Great to hear that you're working on the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, exciting. So the 5-year plan is out now. I think it was yesterday.
Yes.
It was release day.
Tuesday, yes.
Tuesday,
a couple of days
ago. Congratulations.
Yep. It's very
Where
exciting.
is the best place for people to find it?
You can find it on Booktopia or your local independent bookstore. If it's not on the shelf, you can go in and ask them to order it in, and they'd be more than happy to do that. Or if you prefer the ebook version, you'll be able to find that on Amazon and all the places where you can buy ebooks. So it's out and about, definitely through Booktopia if you like buying your books online, and support those indie stores as well, who we know are having a bit of a rough time of it at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And what about you, Jodi? Where can people find you online?
You can visit me on my website, which is www.jfgibson.com.au, and you'll also find me mainly on Instagram and Facebook. I post a lot to both of those platforms, and my handle is @JFGibsonWriter.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on the book. I'm really enjoying it. It's been some beautiful light relief in COVID. And I have to say, I am writing one of those doom and gloom books myself. So it's nice for me to sit back with something light and, just to be taken somewhere else. It's great. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's great to hear. That was my aim with the book, to give you a bit of relief from life.
It's nice. It's sort of like, I don't know, it almost reminds me of some of those old, Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn type, visiting Europe type movies. It's got that.
Yeah, lovely.
Even though it's a very modern story. And I have to say, like you do, I meant to say this earlier, great job on like a lot of the popular social references in terms of, celebrities people might know, or what's happening on Instagram and things like that. So that was a really nice touch too.
Oh, thank you. I like to say that it's a book that's not going to change the world, but hopefully it'll change your day.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Well, thanks so much, Jodi. It's been lovely chatting to you again, and I wish you all the best with the 5-year plan.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.